Hello, Mana TV viewers. Welcome back to Healthy Life the Vegan Way. I am your host, Kalindi. Healthy Life the Vegan Way is a series in collaboration with World Vegan Vision, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to spread the love of veganism for a kinder and compassionate way of life. And today I am back with Dr. Shrenik Shah, the president of World Vegan Vision, and we will be discussing an entirely different aspect of veganism today. For those who are just joining us, Dr. Shah is a physician in internal medicine, and he has been practicing over 35 years. He has been a vegan over 20 years, and since being a practicing physician and a vegan himself, he spreads the love of veganism and whole food plant-based diet to his patients, his friends, and everyone around him. While he practices and preaches whole food plant-based diet and veganism, Dr. Shah is a passionate believer in spirituality and meditation. So he is a mentor or a guide and leads veganism and spirituality side by side. So he guides a lot of people. He actually has a very large group, a meditation group that he constantly guides them through. So today, the discussion is something that's Dr. Shah's passion, meditation and spirituality. And we'll see how, he connects them both and he brings a completely different aspect of veganism in front of us. So, to start this topic, let's recap a little bit, go back on what we had discussed in last few, our last few episodes. Something about we discussed some disturbing truths about the diet which we are used to, consider as our daily routine, our food. We kind of, something as innocent as we think of a glass of milk, and what are disturbing truths behind them. How does that involve so much cruelty, and how does how that diet actually affects our own psyche? So Dr. Shah, without further ado, let's start. Actually, why don't we talk about the message, what message we had, sort of
correct,
right?
Yeah, absolutely, Kalindi. So the thing is that, we saw very, very graphic images and a very detailed description of what animals really have to go through to produce just something that we call food, simple as that. And it was very, very touching, very, very torturous to human minds, even if we mull over all these things, and we can realize that how much suffering is involved in animal industries, and not just animals, but the humans also suffer so much. So the animals have five senses. We, no matter how much we don't want to believe it, but they do have five senses. My biggest challenge had come when my son was young. He was like 8, 9 year old. And he came and asked me, he says, Dad, you tell me not to eat the meat. And, and at that time, there was no word veganism. But animals also have life and plants also have life. Why do we choose the plant over the animals? And it did make sense. So I did an extensive study, and I started through the literature, and suddenly I bumped into a beautiful book called The Life Force by Michael Tobias. Michael Tobias was an Irish gentleman. He was a PhD in religions, and he wanted to study religions firsthand. So what he did was, he studied Catholicism. Then he went to Israel, studied Judaism. Then he came to the Banaras, and he studied Hinduism. Then he went to Kutch, and that's where in Gujarat, he studied Jainism firsthand. And he was so impressed with Jainism that he converted himself to be a Jain. And now he's making nice movies on nonviolence. So what a transformation a single life can do. And if we are ready to transform ourselves, transformation is always available to us. We have to take the first step. So in the last 3 episodes, we saw there is so much suffering involved. And so my answer to my son was that plants, and which I again learned from Michael Tobias's book, that the plants have a single sense, a sense of reproduction. And yes, there is some sensitivity and all that, but overall, there are no five senses like the animal. So whenever you want to cut a cow or a chicken, they are afraid, their eyes are getting wild, they suffer the pain at the inflicted wounds. And of course, that cow, which is gonna be cut, cannot reproduce. So it's trying to save its own progeny from further possibility of continuation of species. All these things are built into these five senses, and they have a brain to integrate all these things. Like I said, 100, 200 feet away, also those animals, those chickens were figuring out that somebody's coming to kill them. There is so much sensitivity there. So if you have to eat something, at least cause the least amount of damage to this earth. So that satisfied my son, and then he became vegetarian, then eventually became vegan. So all this suffering definitely is there, but the thing is that at the time of when the animals are killed, what happens to them? You can imagine from these images, and physiologically, you can even vouch for it, that adrenaline, serotonin, epinephrine, corticosteroid, stress responses, all these hormones are shooting out to the max, because this is a life and death situation. Well, it's not even life and death, it is a death situation. For them, they're trying to protect themselves. So all these hormones, when you eat this non-vegan food coming from the animals, all these hormones which are being totally secreted are coming into our body. Now, there are no studies or anything to prove, because this is all happening internally. But down the road, I'm sure there will be studies, because veganism is relatively a new trend. And now we're going to have more subject pools available to compare. And I'm sure we will come to the conclusion that the stress and suffering of the animals do get transferred onto the human beings, because our brain, our psyche, our mind is like a sponge. It absorbs everything, just like they do. We also do. And there is no surprise, in the whole world, there is so much suffering, so much stress, so much hatred, so much grief. All these things are results of some kind of things that we are doing wrong. Of course, non-vegan food is one of the answers for that. So, why do we do that? Why, despite knowing all these things, why are we like that? Because our likes for this non-vegan food, the cheese and the dairy and ice creams and steak and all those things, this likings is actually happening at the mind level. We modify our mind to like it. And once we like it, it becomes part of our ego. And once it becomes part of our ego, then the ego wants to defend itself. And the ego is the hardness. Ego is the hardness. Now, this is something is maybe difficult to understand, but it's like a simple water vapor. If you cool it down, it becomes a water. But if you really cool it further, it becomes a solid ice. A dagger, you can even kill somebody with an icicle. So literally, right? So this is how things are happening. And this, our likes and dislikes have become so hard that we have become so callous towards the animal suffering. So we need to do something about this. We need to bring some softness in our characters. We preach about it that, oh, we should be nice to others, this and that. But right on our dinner plate, we are committing major crime against the softness of the soul. So that's the whole message we learned from these 3 episodes, that we are very callous. And our own animals like dogs and cats, if they suffer, we take them to the veterinarians and we get them shots and whatever the treatments, heart replacements and knee replacements, all these things. And yet we don't care about these other animals. Why is that? It's the callousness. So that's really what the take home message from those episodes. We really need to do something about it.
Absolutely.
So spirituality is the answer.
So what exactly is spirituality? Like, I find that the definition of spirituality means different things to different people. Right?
Correct.
And how do you connect that with veganism, Dr.
The way I look at it, our body is material because we eat food, which is material. And so our body is physical, something that can be measured, some can be weighed, height, width, depth. So it's all material world that we see outside. But if I tell somebody that your mind is material also, people who have a hard time understanding, because you don't see mind, you cannot measure mind. But what does your mind do? Mind is continuously thinking about the objects. So mind being just your energy, because it continuously gets involved into the material objects, people, situations, it also has become material. So we have body and we have mind. They both are material. And so whatever is occupied in the mind is also material. Your beliefs are material. Your ego is material. Your convictions are material. So all these things, how come you said, prove it to me? Okay, then you put one Hindu against one Muslim. One person believes that he's Hindu, another person believes he's Muslim, and they're going to start fighting before you know. Not all. I'm not making a generalized statement. I'm giving a generalized statement. I'm just giving an example. So these are the beliefs that have established in our minds. And these beliefs, not just religion, any other beliefs that I'm tall, I'm smarter, I'm this, I'm that, those are all hardening happening at the mind level. And these beliefs actually have become the cause of major wars, crimes, and all these things. Just because you look different, just because you believe different, we don't mind killing each other. And all these things are very evident from the news. You can always, look it up and all that. So our mind is also physical. So then what about the spirit? Where is the spirit? But we do have something more than that. We have not just the body, not just the mind, but we have a soul also. And soul is something that can be found only by going within and realizing that soul is the spirit, something that is keeping us alive, like a piece of bread, right? You eat. The piece of bread is sitting there doing nothing. Suddenly you eat. It becomes part of your body. It becomes part of your muscles. It becomes part of your blood. Now you're moving around, utilizing the energy that you obtained from the bread. Suddenly the bread is dancing with you, basically, literally. So the thing is that we have something else, and that is the life force that I was talking about. Life force that keeps us alive. The most precious thing that can define our whole life is the spirit itself that we have, but we don't know anything about it. So spirituality is all about trying to go within and find out what is beyond the body and what is beyond the mind, most important thing. So mind is full of thoughts and beliefs and convictions and all those things. What will happen if you can go beyond the mind? What will you find? That's where you find the softness of the soul. And that's what that spirituality is about. So you were asking the same thing. What has that to do with veganism?
Right.
So what happens is that our mind allows the outside agencies to implant a lot of things in our head. right from the time we are born. A lot of important things. Okay, this is my mother, this is my father, these are my siblings, these are my friends. We keep on taking them. A lot of these things are necessary. But suddenly somebody, a friend comes along and gives you something to drink. They say, why don't you try it? You will like it. Now he implanted his belief into your mind. So that's how the mind gets trained into accepting the outside agency's suggestions, whether it's a food that is in a billboard says you drink that milk, or you eat this yogurt, you will slim down like a 18-year-old model, so you can things like that. Same thing with alcohol, same thing with drugs, same thing with whatever. So all these non-vegan foods also being advertised that eating meat is macho, eating milk is good for your bones, and all these beliefs have kind of engraved in our mind so much that we don't want to accept anything else. And that's why, so the veganism is something we are trying to introduce a new concept into your mind. And of course, this is give and take. Ultimately, freedom is yours. So that, but if you really look into the depth, you will realize that at some point, veganism will help you rise higher than the mind, because you are taking away all your old tenants, which are robbing you of your peace, of your health, causing you diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancers, and you're getting rid of them, and you're inviting, having a fresh look of something else that can benefit at your body level. And then eventually your mind becomes healthy and ultimately helps you connect to the inner soul itself. So that is the whole connection. That's where veganism can help.
So, spirituality, as you said, it is something that connects you with your inner self.
Correct.
It is rising above
above the mind, above your thoughts. At some point, you reach to the thoughtless state, where this is the state where there is mind does not remain, but there is a tremendous joy.
And Dr. Shah, even spirituality, the neuroscience supports spirituality.
Yeah.
There is a whole sort of an entire field called neurotheology, which is dedicated to the study of how spirituality and religion, they sort of, frame your brain.
Beautiful.
And then there are scientific studies done. In fact, something I was reading was in a journal of social neuroscience. Religious and spiritual experiences actually light up certain areas in your brain. It's actual studies with human beings under scanner. Then they look at what areas it lights up, and spirituality does wonders. In fact, it increases the neurotransmitters or the neurochemicals which are associated with reward.
Sure, beautiful.
Right.
Dopamine and serotonin and all this.
Serotonin, yeah, it enhances the serotonin release in your brain.
I had read about a study in the Discover magazine, and I just happened to see it. There was a Jewish psychiatrist, and he really was started to getting into meditation and all that. Meditation is basically you go beyond your mind, because at the mind level, mind is continuously running. I want this, I want this, I don't like this, I want this. All this running, it has make us tired, and yet we cannot stop because that has become our habit. So meditation lets you step back and just teaches you how to just watch your mind processes and just mindfulness. So he was carrying out an experiment on 35 patients of his, and they had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And he taught them into this meditation. And before they went into the sessions and the 3 months program, he did their MRIs, and then compared the MRIs again. They saw that hippocampus was getting bigger. So there is an actual physical structural changes happening because of the meditation. And that is happening in a positive note, because you're connecting with your soul. At the soul level, there is just peace and tranquility, and there is no suffering at all, versus all this rigmarole that we go through at the mind level. So he really saw a major changes happening at the brain level. So absolutely.
That's incredible. And there are the whole brain circuitry. Certain circuitries are studied just in individuals going through trauma or going through stroke, how spirituality changes. In fact, shows the benefits on the brain circuitry itself, or areas where they had injury.
Sure.
So, Dr. Shah, we know, like, veganism is good for our health. It's, good for the health of the planet, good for everyone, right? So, what is this disconnect? Even after knowing all this, why is there so much resistance in adopting? It is a diet at the end of the day. Like, why is there so much resistance? I know that it's good for me. Everyone knows, like.
Correct. The thing is that, like I said earlier, the mind is occupied, and by these external forces which have made us believe, and these are not just deep seated in one day or 1-2 days, or decades and decades of exposure. And sometimes this is coming from your parents, and the parents were getting from their own parents. So it has deep rooted into our culture that milk is good for you, milk is the ghee is good for you, and all these beliefs. And the thing what happens is, when you are so young, and for you, the whole life, the whole world revolves around two figures, your mother and father. So whatever your mother and father tells you, you end up believing in it. So your belief system gets stronger, strengthened at the time when you're so young. And this kind of strengthened belief system is very difficult to change. So unfortunately, that is our rudimentary, deep-seated convictions, which are very difficult to change. So spirituality will help you going beyond it, but it takes some patience, and you need some efforts to go for it. So the veganism does bring, just by default, a whole food plant-based diet does bring a lot of tranquility, a lot of peace, and it brings fearlessness. Fearlessness is a characteristic of soul. What has that to do with the vegan diet? Because with the vegan diet, at the end of the day, you know that your body is going to be healthy. Ask anybody nowadays, how many people are worried about diseases? How many people have diabetes? How many people have already had one heart attack, and they're worried like a dagger sitting on their head that anytime it can fall and I can get another heart attack? How many diabetics are? So all these diseases can be removed gradually with a little patience and little perseverance. So once we're doing this, what happens is that you don't have to worry about your body. So we have 3 levels of existence. We have body, mind, and the soul. Now, theoretically, man is the only animal who can revert his own consciousness onto his own consciousness. We are capable of it. But as a human, we have potential. Mahavir and Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad, they showed that it is possible to go back into your own psyche. But because we are so occupied with the body and the mind so much, that we never, for the whole life, we never ever get a chance to revert back into our own soul, which is where the real peace and comfort and tranquility is. So that's why all these deep-seated beliefs are creating a lot of issues. So unless we take the matter in our own hands, it's not going to change, because it's our own mind. It's nobody else's mind. It's our own mind, and our own body is the result of suffering is happening at the body level. So we have to take the first step.
Right. So what is that first step, Dr. Shah? If you were to tell us that go spiritual, try spirituality, like what would be, 101?
Well, I would recommend 3 important steps, which I have learned from the scriptures. There are 3 steps which are very important for one to understand and bring the transformation at their mind level. Shravan. Shravan is not just listening. Shravan is grasping everything from outside.
Right? Absorbing.
Whether you read a book, you listen to an audio, you listen to a friend, you go to the temple, whatever you want to do, you gather all this information. Now, in this particular case, for the whole food plant-based diet, you read up. With the internet, there is tons and tons of information available. Watch any videos you want, and go deep into it, how much suffering is involved. So this will be the part of your Shravan. And the next one is Manan. Manan is you brood over it. Does it really make sense? Now, brooding cannot happen if you're attending a party and with 10 other friends who are eating and drinking and smoking and having good time, and you say, I'm going to brood over it. It doesn't happen. It happens in a very, very quiet atmosphere. So Manan is a very deep-seated inner process. So, and then once it is deep-seated, you may have to choose whether I myself was right or I myself was wrong. And at that time, it's inconvenient. Truth is very inconvenient. So when you go deep and you realize that, yes, I was wrong in selecting all these things, yes, this cruelty was wrong, then the next question comes in, are you ready to change yourself? So that also will come from within, because inside, beyond the mind is wisdom. Most of the people lose wisdom in a day-to-day life in the sansar. Nobody has wisdom. That's why we borrow the so-called intelligence from other companies. We want them to tell you, oh, I heard this, I heard that, oh, ghee is good for you, this and that. But we never think that what if our mother's milk was good for the cow's calf? Would we do it? No. But simple things, we will never, that's the lack of wisdom. Where does it say that any animal can just go and grab another animal's mother and keep drinking milk for the rest of its life? Now, simple, as we talk, it makes sense. But once we see the gulab jambu and rasmalai or ice cream, the wisdom disappears,
Yes.
right? So mind has intelligence, but no intellect. Intellect is the wisdom, is the ability to discriminate right from wrong. You can't find it in a shop, right? You cannot buy it from outside. It has to come from within. And that wisdom is your connection. The first message that comes from within is the wisdom. So that manan will develop that wisdom. And along with the wisdom, soul also gives you a courage to make the right choice. And it's not easy because you will need a lot of strength. But when the inside voice comes out, you will make that choice. From manan, it will go into acharan. So shravan, manan, and acharan. These are the 3 steps, but extremely important.
They're extremely important, to your walk towards veganism.
Yes.
And your walk towards spirituality, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I tell people, okay, in particular case of veganism or whole food plant-based diet, you absorb all these things. And sometimes in your quiet moments, when there is nobody disturbing you, and you just sit in a quiet corner and reflect, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, keep doing it for 3 weeks, just on one thing, how much suffering I'm causing to these animals, just for 3 weeks. Mahavir Swami says 21 days
21 days, yes.
enough to transform your mind from within. Then the wisdom will start coming in. And then other 3 weeks, what I want people to do is do the brooding over the benefits of the whole food plant-based diet, how you are connected with the earth directly, who is our mother, is bringing food directly to us. How much appreciative can you be without killing anything in between? Mother and you have a direct connection. You have this, when you're eating the fresh fruit, you're connecting with the sunlight, with the rain that's bringing the powerful fresh water for it to grow, the soil itself. So all this interconnectedness, you just do meditate on that. And what I call meditation, you just intensely, deeply reflect on these foods, how beautiful they are, how much guilt-free they are.
And preservation, how much preservation that, just by your diet, what you're doing around you, right?
At that point, you realize that you're connected not with a cow or a chicken or a fish, right? You're connecting with the environment. The whole environment is coming in through your food. And that's a beautiful thing. So this 3 weeks test, I tell people to do. So 3 weeks of sufferings of the animals and the other 3 weeks. And after that, you see what happens. But it has to be with your closed eyes and a deep reflection, continuous application of your awareness on these facts, and then see what happens. So this is a method for people to go into the vegan diet,
Right. And I feel that, whole food plant-based is the next level, right? Or it's a step.
Absolutely, correct. So that's the as you had posted earlier in the Sattvic vegan.
Yes.
Is a new coin that is being termed, just like, they have the kosher food, like the same way they're trying to now create a vegan food, but a Sattvic vegan. So Sattvic is, do you know what is Sattva?
Truth, right?
Truth, yes, purity.
Pure,
truth.
yeah.
Correct, exactly. So Krishna says in Gita, Satvik Ahar, Satvik Vichar, and Satvik Acharan. Three things. Sattva is purity. So I explained to my patients, the Satvik Ahar, what is Satvik Ahar? And they say, I don't know. I say, all right, well, the apple on a tree, was it manufactured in a factory? No. Who made it? God. So, so it has a purity of its own. It is fresh. It's not just fresh, but it's you just picking it up, and it's absolutely the way the nature created it. But you get that apple and you bring it home, you put some oil and butter and sugar and all that, make apple pie, tattva is gone.
Right,
The
right.
purity is gone. So then it becomes a sattvic. So the difference between vegan food and a whole food plant-based diet is that of purity. So Krishna says sattvic ahar, and then sattvic vichar, how your thoughts are pure. You like a kid is very innocent. His thoughts are very pure. But as he grows up, he learns all these techniques, how to cheat someone, stab someone, and take advantage. All these things, he loses his purity. So Krishna says, you have a pure diet, and then you have a pure mind. Sattvic ahar, sattvic vichar, and sattvic acharan. If you do these two, your behavior itself will also be sattvic. So there is a continuity. If people talk about Hinduism so much, but nobody really cares to go deep into Gita and try to translate all this thing into the day-to-day life. Day-to-day life is a whole food plant-based diet. Krishna says that in the 9th chapter on 26th slok. Give me only 4 things. He tells Krishna tells Arjun, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam. Patra is leaf, Pushpam is flower, Phalam is fruit, Toyam is pani, water. Just give me 4 things. It does not ask for meat. It does not ask for any dairy products. Despite what he was doing as a kid under the influence of the elders is one thing, but when he was delivering Gita, he was giving the highest possible knowledge to Arjun. So which one would you believe? So sattvic ahar, so purity is extremely important. And all these things, if we do it, someday our children will also follow. We want to grow up and we want to reach to the soul level, which is pure. At the soul level, we bind with the whole world. And that connectedness connects you with your neighbor, with your county people, your country people, the world people. Everywhere you connect, that connectedness is extremely important. And if you want to live your life, if you want your children to grow up that way, you be that way also. So this whole food plant-based diet gives you an opportunity to reach to the soul level and get that simplicity of life. And that's what the main message of whole food plant-based diet is,
And that would be the 101, step 1 towards spirituality.
Absolutely. So what happens is I'll tell you my experience, because about 20 some years back, I started getting into spirituality and I wanted to know further. I read the Gita, and then I had a lot of Upanishads I read, and all those things I read. And I realized that there is something called the soul, even though conceptually, yes, but experientially, no, I didn't. So I was so desperate to go beyond the mind, go beyond the thoughts. Every time I would sit down to meditate, and then thoughts will keep on coming and they will keep on bothering me. And I keep on trying harder and harder, but just were not happening. Meanwhile, I was learning so many benefits of vegan diet, but my mind was not letting it go. And I knew at the physical level, body level, I wanted to lose weight, and obesity, no good. I understand that. But at the mind level, I started realizing it has hormones, it has possibility of cancers, and all those things also I knew it. But you go to the party, you cannot, you still look at the people, you're not eating it, and people are eating it, enjoying it, and they're making fun of you or whatever may be the case. But I would not eat. But truthfully, I will have a split mind, that one part of the mind wanted to eat, another part did not want to eat. So I would go home feeling kind of empty-handed. Of course, the feeling will pass and I'll be okay. But one time I was meditating and I just kept going so deep and deep and deep. The soul is one of the main freedom, the freest substance in our whole life that you can know. So this freedom is so precious, and this freedom is so beautiful that I was experiencing that freedom, and suddenly it hit me that Atma that is so pure and free, the soul of the cow also must be as free as this. So I have to offer it. Suddenly the message came from within.
As they say, you are what you eat,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Today's talk really sums that, right?
Yes,
Your explanation about sattvic vichar, sattvic ahar, sattvic vichar, it is you are what you eat.
correct.
So, what we eat, if we change what we eat, we adopt something different, something new, we adopt veganism, it is a step towards, going purity of sort of like, I don't know, we call it the cleansing, sort of cleansing your, not only your gut, it goes all the way to your soul if you think deeply about
Yes.
it, right? So hopefully today's talk brings viewers closer and closer towards veganism, right? Every step we are making is we are trying to show you the benefits. And we started from health, then to environment, to animal cruelty, and now to your own soul. So hopefully today's words of wisdom by Dr. Shah and our discussion leads you more towards that. And as they say, all you have to do is just a single step. Take a single step, and then the journey will lead you on. Healthy life the vegan way. Thank you very much. Until we meet again. Thank you, Dr. Shah.
Thank you.